Hello everyone, we're doing another top 10 here for Commander, going over 10 cards that I honestly feel are the best Commander specific cards in the format. And what I mean by Commander specific is really anything that is anchored to this format. And it's by rules text that these cards are really only useful in the format. Yes, you can technically play these in any Eternal format, they're not banned, but it's next to useless to have any of these in Legacy or Vintage, because by the rules text that they have, they specifically interact with the Commander, so why would you play them in any other format? This isn't to say that playing any Commander card or any card that comes out in a Commander product is a good idea if you go with Legacy or Vintage. That's not exactly what I'm saying, but at least if you were to play something like Nekosar in a Legacy deck, it would serve some purpose, even though it's just way beyond practical. No. None of these cards are really playable at all. You're probably just as well off playing random commons from Core Set 2019. There aren't really any honorable mentions because there aren't really too many cards that are Commander specific, so we're just going to jump right into the top 10. Number 10, we have Angelic Field Marshal. It's pretty much just something you see in Commander 2014, and they never really brought it back, but I think it's a pretty good keyword. Interacting with the Commander, it has to be on the field the same time this is in order for you to get this. As long as you control your Commander, the Field Marshal is going to get +2/+2, and creatures you control have Vigilance. This is probably the worst one on this list because it's really not that much better than Heliod, God of the Sun. Kind of does the same thing while not giving +2/+2 to itself and doesn't have flying. All of your creatures have Vigilance, and it doesn't really matter if you have a Commander or you don't, but I still like having decent keywords, distributing them to your other creatures, and a 5/5 Angel for 4 isn't too bad if you can get it. It does have some usefulness in Commander, so while it isn't anywhere near the best card on this list, it is still worthwhile. Number 9, we have Tyrant's Familiar, another Lieutenant card. This one is a little bit better though, because I just feel like dragons are more prominent in Commander, especially considering we have Dragon Tribal, 5-color Dragon Commander that was released last year, and a pretty decent creature here even though it's a whopping 7 mana. Flying Haste 5/5, at the very worst, is going to be playable. But if you are able to get the Lieutenant, as long as you have your Commander, it's going to get +2/+2, and whenever it attacks, it's going to deal 7 damage to target creature defending player controls. So it's better than the Field Marshal, it's going to give removal, and it's going to get +2/+2 as well. So all in all, a decent creature, just still not as impressive as some of the other cards on this list, and in most Dragon decks, it's easy to overlook this guy. So just number 9. Number 8, we have Opal Palace. Not my favorite land, not my favorite Commander-specific land. Outside of Commander, this card is useless. It's just something that taps for 1 colorless. But if you have an extra mana, it can tap for 1 mana of any color. The reason why you would do that is so that you can get +1/+1 counters on your Commander. And you get +1/+1 counters dependent on however many times you've cast your Commander. So in some decks, this is extremely useful. You really want more +1/+1 counters on your Commander for whatever reason. Let's say you're playing Gave Guru of Spores. Well, that deck is all about +1/+1 counters. The more that you're able to get on your Gave, you might be able to combo quicker, or even something like Marath, Will of the Wild. Sometimes it's extremely relevant. A little bit lower because it's not always relevant, and sometimes it's a nuisance. If you really need that mana fixing and you have to pay an extra mana in order to get it, it's an inconvenience. Does come into play on tap though, so I have to give it props for that. Moving on to number 7. We have Command Beacon. This card is really good. I don't think it's ever been reprinted. It was only printed that one time in the Simic deck with Azuri, Claw of Progress. And it's a very weird card. Some people don't like it. Some people don't see its usefulness in the format. But it's really good if you want to get around that Commander tax. If you're the type of player who plays your Commander 5 times in a game, you really don't want to pay that much more mana just to cast your Commander for the 6th time. You would rather just return it to your hand from the command zone. That way you can just pay its normal cost. That's why Command Beacon is so good, but it's also a really cool way to get around something like Phage the Untouchable, being able to play her from your hand so you don't die when you play her from the command zone. That's a really cool trick there, but really getting away with not having to pay the commander tax for 1 time I think is really good, and it's a good enough reason to play Command Beacon. It's a one-time use unless you have something like a Crucible of Worlds or anything else that can bring it back, but still still, even just doing it one time can be the difference between you losing the game and maybe staying alive. Definitely good enough to be on this list. Number 6, we have Bastion Protector. Now, weird enough, they brought something like Lieutenant back the following year, Commander 2015. However, it didn't say Lieutenant. Commander creatures you control get +2/+2 and have Indestructible, which is very Commander specific. Outside of Commander, she is just a 3/3 for 3. No joke, she is vanilla. But in Commander, she is very good if you want to play with Voltron. Having your Commander out there, at least for a turn, they have to deal with this first before they can deal with your Commander. Your Commander will be a little bit bigger and indestructible. That's really good. Also has the benefit of synergizing with humans or soldiers if you want to go with tribal or any sort of theme where that matters. She does see play in some human decks, and indestructible is a pretty decent keyword. Number 5 is Bloodsworn Steward. Now this is kind of the same thing, but instead of indestructible, it's haste, which means it's even better for Voltron, because getting haste on your Voltron commanders means that you can swing even sooner. And even better than Bastion Protector, because the synergies here are even more playable than human tribal or soldier tribal, but vampire tribal and knight tribal are things now, and very cool, very relevant creature. +2/+2 in haste is no joke. Number 4 is Path of Ancestry. This came out in last year's Commander set, and it is super playable. Pretty much every single deck where you have a tribal synergy, this is going to give you some value. Scrying whenever you cast a creature by using this as mana for it is pretty sweet. You get to control your top deck, make it more favorable by getting rid of jank on the top of your deck. I mean, that's very valuable. Doesn't have to be tribal though. It could just be using it to cast your commander, getting a good value scry that way, and it does tap for 1 mana of any color that you really need. So overall, very versatile. While it may not be the most widely played card on this list, that is going to be reserved for number 1. It is definitely worthwhile if you want to put this in any sort of tribal deck. And then moving on to number 3, we have Thunderfoot Baloth. This is also yet another lieutenant creature, and it's probably the best one because it just does so much more. Like the other ones, as long as you control your commander, this creature is viable, and once you do, not only will Thunderfoot get +2/+2, but all of your other creatures will get +2/+2, and they'll gain trample as well. So just so much more for creature-based decks, and it's really the best lieutenant because it just does so much more, giving trample to all of your other creatures, and a power and toughness boost when all of the other lieutenants don't really do that much. They don't give all of your other creatures extra power and toughness to work with. Thunderfoot Baloth fits in perfectly alongside other overrun effects, Craterhoof Behemoth, overwhelming your opponents with good power and toughness with trample, and he does it pretty well. Number 2 is Commander Sphere. One of my favorite cards, probably my favorite card on this entire list. It is just super playable, 3 colors and up. You should probably be playing this card because it's going to give you 1 mana that you need, and it's able to sacrifice itself for free. You don't have to pay any extra mana like something with Mind Stone. Just a ton of value. Artifact decks, this is recurable pretty easily. Just a ton of value. You can sacrifice it for that card draw after you tap it for mana. Probably one of the most widely played cards on the list, but this definitely doesn't see more play than the number 1 card, which has to be the most commander-specific card on this entire list because it is literally useless unless you're playing commander. And just about every single commander deck that is 2-colored, 3-colored, 4-colored, and 5-colored play this card. It's just way too good to pass up. Command Tower doesn't come into play tapped, and it taps for whatever mana that you need within your commander's color identity. If you don't have a commander, it doesn't tap for mana. Yeah, I know technically Path of Ancestry is the same exact thing, but this card is just everywhere. It's been in every single precon since the first one in 2011. It'll probably be in every single one until they stop doing them. Just the ubiquity, just its popularity. It's new player friendly, super cheap. Anyone can get them if you can afford a precon, or even if you just want to pick up some cheap singles on TCG Player. Probably the one card that you would associate with this format more so than any other card. I'm even going to say Sol Ring, because Sol Ring has been around for a long time. It's one of the oldest cards that sees play in Commander. Command Tower, however, is going to be synonymous with Commander, because ever since they rebranded it as Commander when they took that idea, we think about the Command Tower. We think about the relationship between the color identity and the lands that we tap for mana and how all that's relevant. Very important card for the format, and definitely makes a singleton deck much easier to play with, more consistent. But anyway, guys, that's going to be it for the list. Let me know what you think about these. Try to make it more interesting for top 10s. Didn't want to go with something that everyone else has done, so I hope you guys appreciate that. But anyway, you all have a wonderful day. Void here signing off. See you all next video.